Hello, and welcome to another episode of Boundless Body Radio. I'm your host, Casey Ruff, and today we have another amazing guest introduced to you now. Wayne Walker is the founder of Reflective Mind Hypnosis. Wayne is a passionate and dedicated hypnotherapist who's transformed the lives of countless individuals by addressing challenges such as anxiety, depression, panic attacks, weight loss, and smoking cessation. With a unique blend of expertise and compassion, Wayne creates a safe and supportive environment for his clients to explore their subconscious and unlock their potential for positive change. At Reflective Mind Hypnosis, Wayne utilizes powerful hypnotic techniques tailored to each person's needs, guiding them on their journey towards mental well being and personal empowerment. Wayne's true passion lies in guiding individuals towards better health and wellness, particularly through weight loss. As a certified hypnotherapist, Wayne's profound understanding of personality types and effective weight loss strategies, including the carnivore diet, has transformed countless lives, helping individuals to understand and overcome the root causes of their behaviors. Wayne also shares his journey on YouTube and on his podcast called The Hypno Lion's Roar. You can find Wayne on his website at www.rmhhypnosis.net. Wayne Walker, what an absolute honor it is to welcome you to Boundless Body Radio.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You've got such a cool story. And this is something that we have not covered at all on our podcast. So I'm very much looking forward to talking with you about this and this very interesting confluence that you have of your career, which is hypnotherapy, and also something you found more recently, which is the carnivore diet, how the two of those kind of combine. So I think this is going to be a fascinating episode. I definitely want to hear your personal story. But before we do, I'm just really curious about hypnotherapy. I'm wondering what are some of the most common myths or misconceptions? Like a bum like me that has never had hypnotherapy done, you hear about it, from your high school buddies who go to a weekend thing, and it sounds like this whole
Right.
production. Like I don't. Besides a few books that I read maybe a decade ago that talked about hypnotherapy for like past life regression kind of stuff, I really don't know that much about it. And our audience is probably about the same. Can you tell us some of the most common like myths or misconceptions about hypnotherapy?
Absolutely. Hypnosis has been around for hundreds of thousands of years. I mean, it's if you think back, or if you look at the Native Americans, for example, and how they go into sweat lodges, or how they dance around the fires and the beating of the drums and all of that leads itself to creating altered states, which is hypnosis. If you look at religious leaders or aspects, deep prayer, which you go into prayer, that is a form of hypnosis. You're going into hypnosis, so it's an altered state, and it's a very common thing with people because we go through it on a daily basis. If you've ever sat around and just kind of zoned out and got kind of lost in thought about thinking of whatever, you're dropping yourself into a natural state of hypnosis. It's an altered state. It's a focus. It's highly focused. If you've ever heard athletes talk about being in the zone, well, that's a form of hypnosis. So it's all around us. And it's something that we utilize on a daily basis. The average, a person on a daily basis will go into hypnosis anywhere from 5 to 7 times a day.
Wow.
Little snippets here and there. Okay. So it's very natural. The challenge with well, I shouldn't say challenge. The thing with hypnosis is people hear just enough to form an opinion about it, or just enough that they think they know what it is. Okay. And whatever a person, when I talk to them, thinks about hypnosis, typically they have no idea what hypnosis is and what the benefits are. Okay. I was fortunate when I was 17 to come across hypnosis. I had no idea what it was, but I had a friend who was a psychologist who was a hypnotist, that he used hypnosis in his practice. And I was kickboxing at the time. I started martial arts when I was 11. And I was getting into kickboxing back in the late 70s, going into the early 80s. And he came and watched me train one night. And after my training, he said, you need to let me hypnotize you. And I go, what is that? He goes, it'll help you. Trust me. I said, sure. So literally he worked with me. I probably did about 5 sessions with him. And he had me to the point to where when I heard the bell go off, I would go in the zone, and I didn't come out of the zone until the fight was either over or there was a knockout, something that signified the fight was over. I'd come out of it. And
Wow.
to this day, I don't remember many of my fights
I was
because,
just going to ask. That's so interesting.
yeah, yeah. And I would have opponents come to me up to me afterwards, and they said, "You know what?" It says, "You had this weird look in your eye, man. That was like really odd." He goes, "I hit you with everything I got." He said, "You just kept coming and coming and coming." And I'm thinking, is this guy going to go down or not? And it was just kind of an odd thing. And once you understand it, it kind of makes sense. But it wasn't until years later that I started learning about personality types. I started going to seminars of various types, uh, and started putting things together. And then I had the opportunity back in the late 90s, 1999, to go to a hypnosis school that I found in Los Angeles. And having no interest, no desire, no inclination of ever doing it on a professional level, other than the fact that I just found it fascinating. So I went to school for a couple of years, had a great time, learned a lot, and then, but my time was focused on taking over my dad's construction company at the time. And things is how they do, they work out. Then that didn't work out. And I said, okay, what am I going to do? I don't want to do what I used to do, blah, blah, blah. And then here I am today. So I've been having, I established Reflective Mind Hypnosis back in 2000 and about 6 or so, somewhere
Okay.
around in there.
Wow.
And I've been doing it ever since. Part-time in the beginning, because I was still working and traveling and stuff. And then, you know, the good Lord and all his amazing way led us to here I am today, and which is where I should have been a long time ago.
Mm, yeah. Well, I love that story of following your life's passions and then having that end up being the thing that you did professionally. I love when those things kind of come together. So that's quite interesting. Yeah. Okay. So that's very interesting that you said about the misconceptions, I guess, that we might frame in our heads of what we think it is. What does a session of hypnotherapy actually kind of look like? Like kind of brass tacks. If somebody were to do it with you, what does that look like?
Well, it really depends on the individual. Before we even get to a point of where we do any sort of hypnosis, I have a consultation with people, and it's usually about 45 minutes long. It's a free consultation I do, and it's really to kind of get some background on them, what their challenges are, what they're trying to accomplish, what's holding them back, what they think is holding them back. And as I go through this consultation, I'm asking questions, I'm discovering. And one of the things that I do is I'm looking at whether this person is even ready for what I do. Because if they're not ready for what I do, for whatever reason, I won't take them as a client. And the reason being is because they're not going to be successful at it. Because all hypnosis is self-hypnosis, meaning that it's not what I do to a person. I lead them into that process because the mind will naturally go there if the opportunity is correct. So I lead them into that process. Now, if I have a person that says, well, I've got an issue with this, this, and this, and my wife said I've got to get over it, and here I am. I'm here because my wife told me to be here. Well, we're pretty much done at that point, because if you're not here for yourself, then it's one of those things that you're gonna try, and then when it fails, you're gonna say, well, I tried that and hypnosis didn't work.
Mm,
And I have an issue with that, because hypnosis will always work, always, as long as you follow the instructions and allow your subconscious mind to release what needs to be released and accept what needs to be accepted. Because once it does that, it creates a new you, a new natural you. Because we as individuals we're typically not real well or real good at reflecting on ourselves. We reflect on everybody else. If somebody comes in the house or somebody you're close to, all of a sudden they start doing things differently, you notice that. Okay. It's like your wife. You come home one day and she says, hey, I've got to go out with some friends tonight. She goes in, she gets dressed and hadn't put on that dress in years and puts perfume on and out the door. It's like, whoa, 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 that's out of the ordinary here. Where are you going? Where are you going? What's going on? Oh, I'm just going to go out with friends. Okay. We notice those things, but we tend not to notice them on ourselves. And hence the name of my company, or the name of the business, Reflective Mind Hypnosis, to where we have to reflect on ourselves to understand ourselves. And there's a saying or an expression I learned years ago. It says, when you point a finger at somebody, you've always got three of them pointing back at you.
Yep.
Which means that you should reflect on yourself. Look at what you're doing in the environment, because you control no one else outside of yourself. No one. You control yourself. You can manage other people to an extent. Even your kids, you can't control them, because you can manage them, because if you turn your back, they're going to do what they are going to do when your back's turned. Hopefully, you've got the relationship with them that say, hey, look, you're going to do the things in life that you're going to do, but make good choices, make good decisions. I'm trying to equip you to go out into the world, to be effective, to be a good citizen, to be a good person, and not create more problems for yourself. So if we can, and that's the whole thing about what I try to do with people is reflect on themselves. Because I do have clients who'll come in and say, hey, well, I have a problem with this, and my wife, or my husband, or my this. Well, I say, whoa, stop. We got no control over those individuals. We're dealing with the two people right here. That's me and you. You're the person that's paying me. You're the person that's in front of me. I don't want to talk about anybody else except you. And then once I can get that message across to them, and they can start accepting responsibility for who they are, where they're at, and why they are where they're at, then at that point there, everything else becomes a lot easier. So a lot of the stuff on the front end is just getting people to that point to where they can reflect on themselves.
Okay.
It's almost like a switch that goes off. And I may end up doing several sessions with a person, and it may take 2 or 3 sessions, but at some point in the early process, it's like a switch that it turns on for them. And it's not a gradual thing. It's a thing. They go to bed and they wake up and they go, oh my gosh, I get it. Because in sleep, when we go to sleep and we dream and all of that, the subconscious mind never sleeps. It's working in the background. And the subconscious mind will do exactly as you ask it to do if you know how to communicate with it. Okay? Because if you don't, and it's got questions, it's going to look for answers to those questions. And if they don't come from you, it's going to pick it up from the environment. It's going to pick it up from somebody else. It's going to pick it up this, because it's looking for ways to fill the voids. Okay? And that's why I say that hypnosis will always, always, always succeed. It will never fail, as long as the subconscious mind is prepared and to accept that new programming. You have to allow it. You have to give it permission, which kind of is odd. It's almost like talking to yourself. It's like if you've ever sat down and kind of talked to yourself and say, okay, look, that was silly. I shouldn't be doing that. I this and it. Well, when you talk to yourself, you hear yourself. When you hear yourself, it drops down into here. Okay. So it's going through a process of cycles to get into you. But there are some things that you ask it to do that it may not come up with immediately. For example, and I use this example all the time. Let's say you go into a restaurant and the waiter or the person is setting down, the host is setting you down, or you look across the restaurant there and you see somebody off in the corner that you know. You just go, I know that person. Maybe you can't remember the name, so you ask yourself that magic question. What's their name? Okay. Now, it may be 2 minutes, it may be 30 minutes, it may be tomorrow, but you've asked yourself a loop question. You've asked your subconscious mind, what's that person's name? It's going to come up with the answer. It may come up with it later, tonight, tomorrow, but at some point in time, you'll go, Bob. And you're going to be in the middle of something else, and people are going to look at what? Nothing. I just forgot this, and it just came to me all of a sudden. Well, do you think that just kind of happened by itself? You gave it instructions. What's that person's name? So now think about, do you have children?
No, not yet.
Okay. So let's say that you have a child and little Bobby comes home and he's got his report card and he failed math. Now, from the time a child is born until they hit about 10, 11, 12 years old, they're in a constant state of hypnosis, which means that they don't have the critical veil protecting the subconscious mind from imprints, and they can't have it because they have to learn language skills, math skills, survival skills, all these different skills. They have to have data endpoints of information, experiences, and all that to know how to put things together. So when that critical veil drops and protects the subconscious mind, that they've got information stored up on, oh, okay, I've got a bank of information that I can draw upon. But let's say little Bobby comes home from school, he's failed his math test, and as a parent, you look at him and go, I cannot believe you failed your math. That we spent so much time on working on your math. Why are you so stupid? Well, that why question that he hears, he goes, why am I so stupid? Well, I'm so stupid because of this, and because of this, and because of this, and because of this, and because of, and it builds up that information to answer the question. Okay? So it's a lot of times, it's very important the way that we ask questions of our children or the things that we say, because they're going to be very innocent. He's got no critical thinking. Now, if you say that to a 13-year-old, that veil has come down and says, hey, why are you so stupid? He goes, well, I'm not stupid. Why are you stupid? You're stupid. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, so now there's conflict. There's a reaction. But until that happens, there is none, because they're gathering that information. They're gathering that data point. And that is so important, because you have to learn not only how to talk to the younger ones, but learn how to talk to yourself. Because if you're doing things and you go, God, why am I so stupid? Well, let me say, you're so stupid because of this, and because of this, and this, and this, and you're reinforcing. And that's not the way you should be talking to yourself. Why would you talk to yourself like that? Would you talk to your wife like that? Maybe, but you shouldn't be. Okay. So be careful of the words that you use.
Wow, that's really well said. I find that absolutely fascinating. So interesting. And good news about this is I'm going to let my wife know, Bethany, that you've already named our first child. So when we have our first child, the name will be Bobby. So I really appreciate that. That just eliminated all conflict there. So yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, I find that absolutely fascinating. And you hear it all the time. People that have the issues now, it's something that came from childhood. Maybe they remember, maybe they don't, but it's something that somebody said or whatever that kind of drives some of the behaviors today. Really interesting.
You know what? Before I came on with you, I had a session with a client for the first time today, and he's 34 years old. He's a young man. He's married, second marriage for him, and the way that he carries himself, you know what? You can tell a person's how they feel about themselves by the way they carry themselves. How their shoulders drop, or this, or the voice they use. They've got a weak handshake or that, and it really kind of segues into the personality. And a lot of times the personality that they develop is developed from childhood, which is not the real personality that they should have, but because they've been browbeat so much as a child, they mask a different personality in order to survive in the environment. So they put that mask on. And then as they get older, they don't know how to take the mask off. It becomes a natural part of them. And that's where the conflict within continues to battle, because they're living with a fake person who they know they're not, or they think they may not be, and their true personality. Okay. But he told me of experience after experience after experience from his childhood. Now, he told me that his mom and his dad were wonderful parents. He had a great relationship, but it was his time in school as being bullied by others, that he was always overweight and he was bullied, and that he was diagnosed with ADHD, and he had a label hung on him, and they took him and put him in special classes because he had ADHD or this. Now, I have a real issue with labels, with people applying labels to people, especially kids, because when you apply a label, they tend to live up to that label, whether it's positive or negative. Okay. And when you have a negative label on them, and I have issues with the whole ADHD and all of that. And people that have been diagnosed with anxiety or depression, they go into the doctor and they've got a check mark and say, okay, I did this, I feel like this, and I'm not sleeping. And the doctor goes, oh, anxiety, here's your pill. Talk to you later. Bye. Okay. Well, the anxiety and depression, that's a catch-all because doctors have no idea what it is. Okay. But when they come in here, when they come to me and they say, look, I've been through every doctor, I've taken pills, I've done this, nothing's worked. And you're my last stop. And I go, I wish you had started with me first. We could have circumvented a lot of this nonsense. Okay. Because all that has happened was a high emotional state has been created, and their subconscious mind latched on to a trigger or an anchor for that emotion. And then that emotion drops down, and then all of a sudden that becomes a part of them. It's almost like you have an experience as a child and of grandma's house and the baking the apple pie and having a good time. And every time you smell an apple pie from that point forward, it reminds you of being at grandma's house. Well, that's an anchor. That's a trigger for that emotion. It's a good one. But those anchors or triggers are also developed for negative emotions. And they can hit like that. And a person can drop down into that negative state and never even know why they do it. And that's why they have that trigger, that one minute they're like this, they're real happy, and the next minute they're like this, if they're just like they're Jekyll and Hyde. Well, there's a reason for that. And usually it's a trigger and ankle. And they don't, and again, it could have been somebody said something, they could have heard a sound, they could have smelled a smell, PTSD, if you will, soldiers, battle, there's triggers and anchors there that trigger that. We used to call it shell shocked or flashbacks way back when. Okay. So it's one of those things you just have to get a handle on, and that we have to learn more about it, because there's so much about it that could be utilized for people today that don't involve drugs, that don't involve long drawn out talk therapy. Because the problem with talk therapy is that you go in, you sit down with a person, you regurgitate how you feel with this and how I think this and blah, 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 blah. You say it, you hear it, it drops. You say it, you hear it, it drops. And nothing gets accomplished. And you walk out of that therapy session feeling 3 times or 10 times as bad than when you went in there, but nothing has been solved. With hypnosis or hypnotherapy is, I don't need to know all the details. I don't need to know all the nasty history and this, and I just don't. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to lead the person into hypnosis. I'm going to allow them to get into that state. And then they're going to be dealing with that stuff that they have to release in their own subconscious mind. And they're going to deal with that by me leading them through how to deal with it, asking the right questions and to consider and release and this. And I'll never know the difference. So they don't have to feel bad or regret or shame or anything to trying to give it. Because when you talk to a therapist, 100% of the time, that person never, ever tells that therapist everything. Doesn't happen.
Yeah.
It's like a married couple. Okay. Husband and wife sat down in that. You tell them just enough to not get any more questions. Okay. So you don't have to feel bad, or you don't have to do this, or you don't have to justify or that. It's just a protection mechanism.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes it works out that way, you know. And then you've got the issue of the primitive mind, which is the fight, flight, or freeze mechanism. So all of these things kick in, and you have to understand that. Okay. Because people they're going to naturally protect themselves. The subconscious mind, its number one job is to protect you. And it's going to protect you at all costs and with the information that it has, right, wrong, or indifferent, is how it's going to protect you. Because there's sometimes, like kids, they do things and you stop and say, hey, Bobby, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? And he goes, I don't know. Well, he doesn't know, because he's experiencing things trying to get those data points, experimenting this and get out of that. Why are you in that tree? Well, I wanted to see how high I climb. Well, get down, you might fall. No, let him climb the tree. Trust me, he'll either hang on or he'll fall out the tree.
It's true.
Okay. I mean, you've got to let people experience it, especially kids, because that's how they build their confidence. And if you're constantly stopping them from that opportunity to build that confidence, to have those wins, then you're going to have a weak child on your hands. And when you have a weak child, you have someone that can't cope. And when you have someone that can't cope, they will cope, but usually not in the way that you want them to.
That's right. Yep. Hard now, easy later, easy now, hard later.
There you go,
Totally.
right there.
It's funny how you mentioned the talk therapy and how that works compared to what you do. And I have to tell you, you know what that really reminds me of? The way I used to do nutrition coaching with people when I was coaching on a more standard diet. When I was trying to give people a balanced diet, you tell them how much lean protein and whole grains and fruits and vegetables and fruits, and make sure they're prepping their meals, eating 6 times a day and all the meals and snacks. And you could put somebody on that nutrition coaching and see them every 2 weeks. And always, 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 I could find something. There was always a behavior that you weren't doing enough that we could highlight. And I could say, oh, did you eat until you were 80% full? Did you write about food in your food journal about your emotions? Did you really take the time to prepare all the meals that you needed and get the right amount of whole grains in your meals? Like, you could keep somebody, not that we did this on purpose, but you'd see somebody every 2 weeks for an indefinite period of time because there's always something they could have. Where now it sounds a lot more like you. If I'm coaching somebody on Carnivore, I'll see them a few sessions and they might have follow-up questions or whatever. But if they understand it, they're good and they don't need to see me anymore.
Right.
So very similar.
And that's the interesting thing about the carnivore diet is because, I was an athlete. I was a kickboxer. I've owned martial arts schools. I've trained kids for Junior Olympics. I was on the all-army karate. I know how to train. Okay. I was a very well-trained athlete. And then life gets in the way, and then age starts catching up with you and your body starts going through changes and reduction. And then plus all the crap that you're eating that you think is good versus and understanding how it affects you now. But if a person has addictions, and it could be carbohydrate addictions, it could be sugar addictions, it could be whatever addiction it is, alcohol or this, an addiction is an addiction. I don't care if it's drugs, alcohol, food, or sugar, it's an addiction. The body's going to react to it the same exact way. There's a commonality between those things. And I've taken drug addicts, and in 3 sessions, they stop drugs, okay? Because they've reprogrammed the subconscious mind. And with the carnivore diet, I found interesting is that, and this is with any diet really, because as you know, any diet that you stick to, you're going to be able to lose weight to a certain extent before the body starts fighting you back, okay? Because there's a lag time. There's that wake, if you will. So, but when they've got these addictions, you have to retrain this up here, because if you don't, then what they're doing and with the way that they're being told to eat, they're going to well, that doesn't make sense up here. That doesn't make sense. And the conscious mind, even though they're consciously using willpower, I'm going to do this, I'm going to eat this. Willpower is only so strong. It's only going to last for so long before you go into emotional shutdown and give up. And then the subconscious mind goes, see, I told you, you're supposed to be back over here. And then that's where the old patterns come back. But if you change this up here, you reprogram this to where you can't go back. And that you get the subconscious mind working with you, going the direction that you know that you want to go, then success is tenfold at that point.
Yeah. Wow. That's very well explained.
And it's really it's not rocket science. It really isn't. It's really not rocket science. It's very simple. There's some skill sets in getting to that point on my part, because the reality of it is that I can take a person and teach them how to hypnotize somebody in about an hour and a half. It's really very simple. I mean, there's some steps in that. Now, they may not be able to hypnotize every person. They may only be able to hypnotize 25% of the people that they sit down with at that point, because there's some other things. But really, the hypnosis part of it is really a simple thing. This is, it's almost like the dog chasing the car. What's the dog going to do with it when he catches the car? So the skill set is once you've got the person into hypnosis, what are you going to do with them then? And that's where the pieces of the puzzle that I sit back and I look at, and I look at those based on my life experiences, based on my skill of training people, pushing people, stretching people, holding people accountable to the point to where you don't break them, but you get the best out of them. Okay. Because as a coach, you can break a person very easily depending on the personality of that individual. Okay. It's if you're a person and let's say God blesses you with 5 kids 6 years from now. Well, each one of those kids are going to be unique. And if you say, hey, I'm going to treat this one just like I did the first one all the way through, well, you're making a mistake. It's not going to happen, because each kid is going to have its own personality. It's going to own this, that it's going to be its own person. Okay. And it's your job as a parent to discover what motivates that person, what the reactions. Do you raise your voice with them with this one versus over here? You got to get a little bit more heavy-handed. Okay, because this one's a little bit more of a knothead than this one. Okay, you have to know these children, because when kids are born, they don't come with instruction manuals. It's like, and usually as parents, what we do is we default to how we were raised, even though we may not want to. And you say, I'm never going to treat my child like that. And then next thing you know, you're right back down to that pattern, because the definition of crazy is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. In order to get different results, you have to do things differently. Yep. And this is where hypnosis comes into play. It's doing things differently. It's approaching things from here.
Yeah, very interesting. I really appreciate that. It's very cool to be able to understand the modality a little bit better. And you did mention the carnivore diet. So let's talk about, again, your own personal journey. You were an athlete growing up. What was your health journey as you traded careers and tried different things or whatever? What was happening with your own physical health, and how did that eventually lead you to the carnivore diet?
Well, the short answer is my wife is the one that led me to the carnivore diet, but I'll go a little bit further back. Growing up, I was raised here in Texas. I grew up with the typical Southern diet: chicken fried steak, fried chicken, this and that, and it was all. But that food was different then. It wasn't like it was today. It wasn't modified. Okay. You go to the grocery store, and if you wanted oranges, you had to wait until they were in season, because they weren't in the grocery store. Now you get them year round. Now that's kind of weird. Okay. So it was a typical thing. I could pretty much eat anything that I wanted, as much as I wanted. And because I was training, I was throwing hay during the summer. I was a country boy. Okay. And then went into the military. At the time, the military was high physical, high discipline, unlike what it is today. Because you look at the soldiers today, they're different. They look differently than when I was in the military. Okay, for a variety of reasons. So as I got older and got into my career, my training went down. I always trained. But it wasn't probably until about 10, 12 years ago that my training pretty much stopped, because I was traveling throughout the United States working in this, and the idea of having a gym or going to the gym, that was just not going to happen, because that was a luxury at that point. And it started putting on weight. And we ended up back here in my home state of Texas. And I'm trying to get a handle on my health. My blood pressure started going up about 7 years or so ago. I'm in the VA system, so I had the blood work done, and blood work was always pretty good, but the blood pressure was up, and the glucose, and this, and pre-diabetic, and it got to the point to where I was getting desperate because nothing that I was doing, I was eating what I thought was good. We did do the keto diet about 3 years ago. I had limited success on that. but there were too many loopholes in it. There was the corporations got involved with it. And you go down the aisle at the grocery store and say, "Hey, keto, this is keto friendly, keto friendly, keto friendly, keto friendly, keto," because they wanted their take, their cut, if you will. And it's like, no, it's just nonsense. So I was talking to the VA, and they were actually going to get me a gastric bypass. I was that desperate. And I had read about the success and failures, and 50% of the people, it's a failure for. It is an invasive surgery. There's inherent risk to that. And I said, well, okay, what about this Ozempic and this? And so the VA was trying to get me on that, and you had to jump through certain hoops for that, and that didn't come out. And I was really just irritated. And then I'd actually quit working with people probably about a year and a half, 2 years prior to that, with losing weight, because I was out of control. I couldn't lose weight. So how can I work with somebody, in what I do that's this? Because I had the old idea of limit your calories, reduce your calories, increase your activity. Well, that shit wasn't working. Okay. So it was the second week of September last year, and my wife and I, we have a small ranch. So we have cows and pigs and chickens and goats and horses and dogs and cats. Hell, I got animals I don't know about. Okay. So we have our own beef. I've got 3 freezers full of beef, full of pork, chicken. We get eggs. I've got eggs. Okay. Bunch of eggs, fresh eggs. So my wife said, look, and she had been talking to me about the carnivore diet probably a couple of months, and it was going in one ear and out the other. Okay. No, I'm working with the VA. I'm doing this, and I've got this covered, and leave me alone. So the second week of September, my wife says, look, we're doing the carnivore diet, period. We're doing it. And she caught me at a time and said, you know what? Okay, you win. I got nothing to lose. So we started eating, and we went full in. We didn't, none of this, we'll do it slowly and we'll try this. And no, it was like, today, this is the way we eat. Tomorrow, this is the way we eat. In 2 weeks, I lost 15 pounds. And now, granted, most of that was the water weight, but I found that absolutely amazing. Now, the first week that we ate this way, it was kind of hard. It kind of upset our stomach. We were in the bathroom. We were this, and I mean, all this stuff. And my wife is going, look, this is supposed to happen. I promise you, this is what they say. I said, all right. Okay. Thank goodness we got 2 bathrooms in the house. So that 2 weeks I lost at 15 pounds, and I kind of looked, and something just struck. And then I said, I got to look at this a little bit more. And that's where the rabbit hole, it said rabbit hole, carnivore diet. I went down, and I just devoured information. One video led to the next video, led to the next video. It led to this doctor, led to this doctor, this doctor. And it was like I was almost like a crocodile in the Nile River watching all these zebras pass by. And I'm going, okay, I'll get the next, and that's what happened to me. And it was probably a good 3 months. And in the meantime, I'm still losing weight. From September to January of this year, at that time, I was down like almost 50 pounds.
Wow.
Okay. I had to go back into the VA and do my yearly checkup with my general practitioner at the VA, and walked in, and I did not buy new clothes. Did not buy them. The clothes that I had, you would have thought that I went through a secondhand dumpster just to cover, because they were just hanging off them. So I go into the VA, doctor takes me back, or they come and got me, and they put me on the scale, and they looked at the weight, and they looked at the chart, and they go, you lost weight. I go, yes, ma'am. And then the doctor came out, and he looks at me, and goes, what in the hell happened to you? And then that's where the conversation of carnivore started. And I told him what I was doing, and he literally kept me in his office for about 45 minutes.
Wow.
talking about the carnivore diet and
Open
that.
to it, receptive.
Oh, he was very receptive. He
Wow.
said, whatever you do, you keep doing it. And he goes, by the way, where'd you get this information? I said, give me your email. I'll text you the videos. So I started sending him information. I started sending him the videos. Well, in the meantime, I'm losing weight. By March of this year, I had dropped 85 pounds. So from September, second week of September to March of this year, I dropped 85 pounds. Okay. Now that from that time to about right now, I'm down probably a few pounds. I've got about 20 pounds down to go to my fighting weight of what I used to compete at is where I want to go. But people look at me who hadn't seen me in a while. They go, "Oh my God, what happened? Are you sick?" I said, "Do I look sick?" My blood pressure normalized. The whole glucose thing corrected itself, and the heart medication and the blood pressure medication, I put myself off of it.
Good for
I
you.
went in and saw my cardiologist. I had lost all this weight, and he still wanted me on statins. I go, why? He goes, well, it's normal that you put on, but once you have heart disease, that label, I go, what heart disease? What are you talking about? Explain heart disease. Well, you have blood pressure. You have heart disease. I said, that's your definition? That's, once a person has high blood pressure, they have heart disease. Well, yeah, I'm going, I said, you know what? I said, you're selling. I ain't buying. I'm not taking it.
Mm.
Not going to happen. Will not take it. Not happen. I said, do you realize how much weight I've lost? And he literally goes like, I know, because I'd spent 30 minutes with his nurse telling her about the carnivore diet.
Wow.
And I fired that cardiologist. And I've been back to it.
Yeah.
I got a new cardiologist, and I set the tone for the cardio. Look, here's what I'm doing. The only thing that I need you for is to measure blood and blood pressure. And I'm not taking these medications, not doing it. Unless you can point to me that there's something inherently wrong that I need this medication, I'm not taking any of it.
Good. Good for you. That's amazing. Wow, what a cool story. I love hearing, the weight loss is obviously a primary reason why a lot of people come to this diet, but it's all the other miraculous things that come along with it. The deep prescription of medications, the mental clarity, the skin clears up, the gut feels way better. It's so cool to see all of that. Do you recall where your wife found out about the carnivore diet and why she was so gung-ho about getting it done?
She's always listening to something as well. And, we're just, anything that I read or watch or anything like that has to do with improvement or educating myself, getting more information about what I do. I'm not one of these people that sit around and read books that are nonfiction or what is it, fiction. I see no value in that. And she's the same way. I mean, she's a hypnotist as well. I trained her as a hypnotist, and so she has her clients. I have my clients, and that. So, but she found out about it somewhere. And to be honest with you, I couldn't tell. That would be a story for her to tell. But I'm just thankful that she did.
Yeah.
Because and you know what? It doesn't matter why a person comes to this way of eating. If they can just get here and they'll experience everything. But if there's one thing that they can hang their hat on to start it, to become passionate about, because I always tell people, when you start something like this, you have to become militant. You have to become singularly focused in this, because if you're not, you're going to fail. You have to have that reason of why you're going to do what you're going to do. Because there's pain and pleasure. Okay. And whichever is bigger is going to win. If the pain is so great that you build up in your mind that it prevents you from having the pleasure of being healthy, the pain will stop you. But if you can build that pleasure up bigger than that pain, you'll go through the pain to get the pleasure.
That's right. Yep.
So a lot of times it's just it's playing that game with yourself, if you will, having a coach, because I'm a firm believer in coaches. You need somebody to say, hey, look, you're getting off track here. This is what you said that you wanted to this and this, you hold you accountable. Okay. You got to get back on track. Now, I have had clients fail, and I've had clients fail to where they would come in and they'd actually pay for sessions. And then after 3 sessions, I can't find them. Where you at? Email, text, ghost. Okay. Well, sometimes they get scared. Sometimes they don't succeed and they don't want to face the coach. Well, I'm a failure. Well, that's not it. And that's the hardest thing to get across to people. Look, you're going to have failures. You're going to have 3 steps forward, and then you're going to have 4 steps back. But here's the difference. You already know how to go 3 steps forward. You can do it again. You go 3 steps forward. Now, if you only go 2 steps backward the next time, you're a step ahead. And then maybe you do 3 steps forward and you don't take a step behind. It's all incremental. Do not put more pain and pressure on yourself than what you deserve. Okay. If you need pain or pleasure, let that be my job. You're not authorized to do that. You don't, your income level is not to that level. That's my job.
Yeah.
You don't have the right. You're my client. You're not your client. You're my client.
Yeah, well said. I really like that. Now, one of the cool things that you have done is you've been able to kind of merge these 2 things, right? It's not just that you're doing hypnosis professionally, and also, by the way, you eat a certain way, a certain diet. You've figured out how to kind of merge these 2 things. Can you explain kind of how you see those 2 things and how you help people with that?
Well, and I can, and it's really amazing that after you understand, and you know this, is that once you understand the carnivore way of eating, that really the nutritional aspect permeates every aspect of your life. Okay, it's there. Now, the subconscious mind, because we all have one, permeates every aspect of your life. It's there. Okay, so when a person comes to me, and as a matter of fact, I had a client, a prospective client, a couple of days ago. They contacted me. He's 77 years old, and he had a spot on his kidney that was cancerous that they went in and took out. They interrupted his function of his kidneys, and he started putting on weight. He put on like 50 pounds, and his stomach started distending. They can't figure out why or this. And he said that he had been through hypnosis years ago and said, look, maybe the doctors said something while I was in surgery and under anesthesia that my subconscious mind picked up on, and that's causing it. So he contacted me and he said, hey, can you this? And I found out, and I stopped him. I said, what does your diet look like right now? And he explained his diet, and it's sort of carbohydrates and this and this. I eat pretty healthy and blah, 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 blah. Because everything that he was telling me, it was like, well, Dr. Baker said this, Dr. Berry said this, Dr. Chafee said this, Dr. Fong. I mean, all these different these things are coming in. And I'm thinking, you know what? I think that really at this point that I need to send you an email with some video links to watch on diet. And I said, I want you to watch those. If you just humor me, watch these things, see if it makes sense to you. And then at that point there, you and I'll get back together and try to figure out where we need to go. But right now, the diet aspect is where you need to go. And he goes, oh, okay. And off he goes. Now, I could have taken him and done my consultation with him and say, hey, yeah, we can do hypnosis. And I'd have got another paying client or that. He wouldn't have had success. And I know that. And because my ego doesn't let me do that, because I like success, my success is my client's success. So I'm not going to take any money from people that if I know that I can't have an impact with them. So that's where it's at. But when people come to me and I'm dealing with them and they're talking about that they're not feeling well, or that they can't sleep, it always leads back to diet. Have you considered this? Here's what you need to do. Maybe I'm going to, and I send the videos out. I have a list of videos that I send out emails, say, here, watch these, and watch them in the order that I send them to you. because I want to spark their interest to go down that rabbit hole. And some of them do. Probably about half of them do. The other half of them go, well, that was kind of like, I really kind of want something that, it's not going to take a lot of effort. Oh, okay. Well, and that's fine. But I try to get those two things in. Now, if I have a client that comes to me and says, look, I need to get healthy. I've got an event here in 6 months. I want to lose some weight and all of that. And I go, well, good. Here, in order to work with me, you're going to do the carnivore diet way of eating. And I send that information out to them before I even do the consultation. And I'll say, if that's something that you want to look at, then at that point there, we'll get back together and I'll put together a program for you and blah, blah, blah. And then there we go. Okay. But it's real simple. And I just send them out information that's readily available, because I'm not a nutritionist. Okay. Even though it's common sense, you eat this, it's, nowadays you got to be this or that or the other, because if you get out of your lane, you're giving medical. It's like, okay, all right. Well, you know what? If you got a splinter in your hand and I see it, you got a splinter in your hand. Doesn't take a medical degree to figure that out. Okay. Pull it out. Okay. So I try to get people to where, in a frame of mind of being healthy physical wise, but also healthy up here. Okay. And that's kind of what I do, is I bring those two things together. And sometimes they're separate, but the people that choose to go forward, they get results, and it explores, it opens up so many different things that we didn't realize. It's the old saying of, once you get as far as you can see, you can always see further. Once I get down to the end of the block here and I have to go left or right, I can see left or right when I get there. I can't see left or right now. And that's what you deal with. You get as far as you can see, and you'll always see further. It's incremental.
Yeah. Well,
but sometimes people are impatient.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And I wonder how much this is going to apply to you. So definitely, this is just an honest question. I've had people in, psychiatry tell me that we've got techniques, we learn things to help people deal with past traumas and talk therapies and all these things. We've got lots of tools, and it's almost as if the tools work so much better when somebody is in some type of a ketogenic state. The brains are working in a ketogenic state. You try the techniques work much better because the brain is working a lot better. Have you noticed with people who decide to try a carnivore diet, do they require, generally speaking, like less sessions of hypnotherapy? Does hypnotherapy work better for somebody who is also addressing their diet and is either doing a ketogenic or carnivore diet?
The short answer to that, okay, answer the question again.
So basically, does hypnotherapy work better for somebody who is doing a ketogenic or a carnivore diet? Just from what you've noticed, obviously it's not going to be the same for everybody, but just generally, anecdotally speaking.
Okay, so the short answer to that question is yes and no. And what I mean by that is this: you have to take people where they're at the moment. Okay, I deal with people where they're at. Now, can they be in a better position, a better frame of mind? Absolutely, but they don't have to, because the success of hypnosis is going to be successful to a certain degree. Now, in a perfect world, they wouldn't have brain fog, they wouldn't have this, they wouldn't have that to stand in their way. But sometimes what happens is when they get to that wall, that once they get as far as they can see, they say, oh, I got a wall there. Why? Oh, it's my diet, or it's the nutrition, this. So it opens them up to other aspects, and prepares them to accept that. Okay. It's like martial arts. Okay. As an instructor of martial arts, I don't teach people the idea is not to teach people how to fight. Do they learn that? Yeah, they learn how to do that. They learn how to accept pain. They learn how to overcome pain. But what martial arts is really designed for, or what it's there for, is I'm teaching people to do unnatural things naturally, to overcome their natural fight, flight, or freeze mechanism of, oh shit, I gotta, to control that, to slow things down, and to accept what is, and to overcome. Okay, so if I'm training a person, it's like, here are the 3 phases: escape, destroy. Okay, if you can't escape it, you control it. If you can't control it, you destroy it. And there is no, well, maybe, or this or this. It's like what keeps law-abiding citizens law-abiding. It's the fear of the consequences. If you have no fear of consequences, then you could give a rip about what is law-abiding. You're willing to pay that price, so to speak. And typically you will. I don't understand it, but to each their own. We live in America, free country. Okay. So you're learning these things, even within hypnosis, is getting person to that, as far as they can see, that session, that first session, allowing the subconscious mind time to settle down, give it time before the next session. And then when they get into the next session, it reinforces the first session, and you're taking them further on the next session. And it's hopscotching there. And then the incremental changes start compounding. And by the time that they're done, and I tell my clients, look, 30 days from now, you will not be the same person that you are today. It's an impossibility. It's impossible, because once the subconscious mind accepts, agrees, and implements, you're going to be different. Okay. And I hear that from spouses. I hear it from friends, and this and that. I can't believe this. He's changed. They changed, and they don't this, and they're feeling better. They're different. They do. And you say, hey, you know, you're doing really well. I said, yeah, but I can't tell. What are you talking about? It's just me. Okay. Because when we wake up in the morning, we are who we are. It's everybody else that needs to be improved. I'm good. Okay. But when we have changes to ourselves, and we don't even recognize those changes, because it's natural. It's just who I am. Okay. We all have that person that we know or in the family that says, hey, you know what? I am who I am. If you don't like it, you can go pound sand. Well, that's a person that's stuck from week to week, month to month, year to year. And you can look at 5 years ago, they're the same person. What a shame that they've limited themselves from not being different today than who they were from 5 years ago. What a wasted life. What a wasted life. I mean, you don't want a better version of yourself. You don't want to feel better about yourself. You don't want to have people look at you and say, wow, you know, he's overcome, or this. You don't want to be a person that people like to be around. You don't want to be that. Is that what you're telling me? You're an idiot. So,
Man, but yeah, I think that's, again, very, very well said. And this has just been an absolutely fascinating conversation. I think a lot of people will take a lot away from this and understand, in particular, hypnotherapy much, much better, and consider that as a form, a very viable form of reframing the mind, and like you said, growing, progressing, that sort of thing. I think you're just such a great example of that in your own personal life, and your desire to share this message out there is really very infectious. And I've just absolutely enjoyed our time together. Wayne, where would you like people to go to find you and connect with you and your work?
they can reach me at my website, rmhypnosis.net. They can reach out to me, email wayne@rmhypnosis.net. You can do a search online, Reflective Mind Hypnosis. You'll come up with me there. Schedule a free consultation if you have the inclination. If you have questions, let me know. Whatever it is. The thing that I would tell people is give it an opportunity. Be open to it. This is not woohoo. I'm not a psychic. I'm not a witch. I don't have special powers. I just understand the mind is all. And it's one of those things that fortunately, for whatever reason, I've always been able to understand the mind with coaching and this and that. So give it a chance. Look into it. You deserve to be better. But you need to find that tool that allows you to be better. Okay.
Wow.
If you're taking a screwdriver and trying to hammer in a nail, got the wrong tool.
Yep.
Wrong tool.
Yep. Awesome. Well, we will link to all of that in the show notes. I'm wondering if your ranch is too small, or maybe it's just large enough that if I decided to move in and live somewhere on your ranch, it sounds like absolute carnivore paradise with cows and chickens and eggs everywhere. That sounds like I would fit right in. Maybe at the very least I can come visit you sometime in Texas. Sounds absolutely wonderful. But
Would love to have you. We've
uh,
actually got three cows that we've sequestered to get them ready for processing here in the next 3 months or so.
amazing. Oh, that's awesome. Well, Wayne Walker, thank you so very much for doing this episode today and spending time with us. We really,
Thank you
really
for having me.
appreciate it.
I
Yeah.
appreciate it. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. And this has been another episode of Boundless Body Radio.